Mike, I'm going to ask you the same thing Kevin and I were talking about. People do. Would I be fair in saying that people in this city, fans in this city, have less patience with RA Dickey than they do with the other guys right now?
Yeah, probably.
And is there anything wrong with that?
But I think it's also because of the way the season has unfolded for RA. I mean, he's made 4 starts, and 3 of them have been awful. 1 of them has been really good, but 3 of them have been awful. And this is the opening day starter. This is a guy that they gave up a ton to get, and this is someone who was supposed to come here and help get the team over the top, and it hasn't happened. So I think that the patience is low for him, and I think people are going to get upset when he doesn't perform.
How big? We know Dustin is throwing the second game. How big of a start is this for him? Not only as an individual, but to save bullpens.
I think they're all huge for him. The bullpen is in really good shape right now. They had the off day yesterday, and you hope that if R.A. Dickey can pitch the way he can go 7 innings, and they'll help it again. But you've always got Todd Redmond hanging out there waiting for Dustin and Hap as well. So I don't know that it's that huge a deal, but I think that at some point he's going to have to start throwing innings, and he's going to have to get into the 6th on a regular basis if he wants to stay in the rotation. And we all know that he's got stuff, and you kind of want to give him a break. You want to give him a good, 5-10 starts to kind of show that he's capable of becoming a big league starter again. But it's easy to say, but while it's going on, while you're waiting for those 5-10 starts to kick in, it's also easy to start to get a little bit antsy and let's go already. Start pitching some innings.
Hey, Mike, the 2 losses, I guess, that would concern people the most in Toronto on that 5-4 road trip were the 2 losses where there were, we'll call them bullpen meltdowns. How concerned are you that is an early season indication of, I'm not going to say overuse because I think that word sort of has some meanings you don't really want to get into, but how concerned are you that it might be a manifestation of the fact that this bullpen has not just logged a lot of innings, faced a lot of batters, just thrown a lot of pitches?
I don't know. I mean, I'm a little concerned about Steve Delabar because he's had some issues with his velocity dropping, right? He's at 91 where we're used to having him at 94, 95, and you kind of wonder if there's something going on there with Delabar. But no, Aaron Loop had hard, he hadn't been overused, and Sergio Santos had pitched in 5 games in safe situations and gotten them all locked down before he came in for that second game Thursday. They were coming off an off day Wednesday, and nobody pitched in the first game of the doubleheader out of the short relievers. So I don't think you can worry about overuse in the 3rd week of April. I think that eventually you're going to blow them out. But last year it took a whole half a season for that to happen. And the starting rotation was just as touchy as it is now, if not worse. So I just think it was a couple of bad days and nothing more than that.
Now, Mike, how we know the pitching staff has had their woes. How big of a deal has Navarro been? Not only swinging the bat, because we see now he's hitting in the 5 spot, but also behind the plate, putting the right fingers down, just giving some moral support.
I wonder about that, and I think I know that no matter what, the starting pitching was going to be better this year than it was last year, and no matter what, Dioner Navarro was going to get a lot of the credit for it because people love to pile on JP Arencibia so much about his quote unquote inability to call a game and all of that stuff. I I think that it's a very, very, very difficult thing to measure. The pitchers are effusive in their praise of Navarro, but a lot of them were effusive in their praise of Arencibia last year. No one believed it because they thought they were just protecting a teammate who wasn't getting the job done. So I think the amount of credit that he gets is going to be a lot more than he deserves, but it does seem as though he's helping out back there.
Right.
Back there, maybe a little bit more than JP did. But I really don't think that there's any way to measure that.
Sure.
Mike Wilner joining Kevin Barker and Jeff Blair on Baseball Central. When you look at the Blue Jays lineup right now, Mike, and the decision to bring Juan Francisco up with Adam Lind going on the DL, we talked a little bit yesterday. Juan Francisco looks to me like the type of guy that might be one of those guys who kind of gets a bit of a second wind playing at the Rogers Center when you watch that swing. And I know Kevin's played with him and talks about he can put on a show in batting practice. He looks to me like the type of guy that could get a second wind offensively here, because we've seen those guys, haven't we? Guys have come up here and they've parlayed a good year at the Rogers Center into a decent contract and sort of reestablished themselves.
Well, he's only 26. I mean, that's something that's important to remember too. He's gotten shots with a lot of teams, and he's not hit for average, but he's drawn the odd walk and he's shown power. But the age is an enormous factor for him. He's someone who's kind of just run out of chances in a few different places, and he's run into trouble with options, and that's been an issue for him. So he's maybe been available where someone in his situation a lot of the time might not be. But what he might be, he might be Moises Sierra 3 years later. And that's may likely happen to Sierra. He's going to run out of chances, and he's going to be out of options, and things are going to have to happen, and some teams going to snap him up. I know the Blue Jays wanted Francisco last year when Atlanta designated him for assignment, but they didn't have room on the 40-man, so they couldn't make that move, and they didn't want him in the majors. They just kind of wanted to have him in the system. But yeah, so there's a possibility that he certainly does reestablish something. I mean, I still would have rather had Dan Johnson. I think that he's a more complete guy and a more established hitter, and he walks more, and he's got the same kind of power. But there is a chance that there's lightning in a bottle here, and that Juan Francisco gets here, and in the however long it takes for Adam Lind's back to recover, he kind of shows what he can do, and hopefully it helps, because Adam Lind was a really big piece of this offense when he went down.
Now, Mike, how worried are you, and how worried are fans on Edwin's slow start?
Oh, fans are a lot worried than I am. A lot more worried than I am. But I think that's a general thing. It's interesting because last year I think Edwin was the only one on the team who was hitting in April. Arencibia was a little bit too, and nobody else did. And then everybody kind of caught up. And it's a slow start, but he's still walking a little bit. The strikeouts are alarming, especially given that the last couple of years overall he's walked more than he's struck out. And this year he's struck out twice as much as he's walked. The fact that he hasn't hit a home run is not fun, but he has scorched a few balls. Even the last out on Sunday was a rocket up the middle, and they just had him shifted, and it went right to Kipnis. I wouldn't say I'm alarmed. I don't think it's a coincidence that he got drilled in the right hand twice in the last 3 days of spring training. And that may have something to do with this. It's hard for me to imagine it doesn't have something to do with this. But, you can't be who Edwin Encarnacion was the last 3 years and then have it all disappear.
Sure.
Mike, was good of you to do this. I'll see you down at the ballpark tonight.
I look forward to it. Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Mike.